The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line today through till 1, so you can air whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. By all means, do get in touch. Text 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. You can WhatsApp on 166 177 if you want to send a voice message on WhatsApp, you can as well. And of course, 66 13 68 telephone line. Lines are open now. 8 minutes past 12, and Brian's first with us today. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Andy. Andy, a little bit of background. As you probably are aware, I spent 15 years serving the local community as a member of Onchan Commissioners. And we were, I believe, the leading or one of the leading authorities on the island. And we had some very, very fine, upstanding commissioners, Derek Crellin being one of them. And we had a very good clerk. And he served for 30-odd years. We've had so many clerks in the last few years and senior personnel and spent thousands of pounds in lawyers' fees and tens of thousands of pounds in settlements because of disputes between staff and the commission. It's unbelievable. As you know, I have my own issue of a vexatious complaint made to try and stop me from providing off-road parking for commercial vehicles. And because of that, I decided I would attend the public meeting on Monday night. Now, in the public gallery were very few people. However, there was a former MHK and a female sitting MHK and a couple of others from the district. What surprised me was, apart from the conduct of the meeting, when they got to the matters arising from the minutes to the meeting, an item came up that was nothing to do with me. It was a complaint that had been received by a member of the district, a person from the district who'd attended a previous meeting and been insulted rather, and disrespected at the meeting, and they were deeply offended by it. Now, we've had a series of clerks over the last few years, but the gentleman that's in post at the moment is doing an excellent job in the face of adversity. And I can't see him staying and putting up with the three-ring circus that I witnessed. At one stage in the public meeting, of course, the meeting split. You have the public section, then the meeting closes, and it reopens in private, and the public aren't permitted to be there. He tried to make a comment, and the chairman of the meeting said, "Not now, approach me after the meeting," which he did. And he was consulting with the chairman of the meeting after the meeting had effectively concluded, when David Quirk jumps up and he's shouting, "I'm not being threatened like this, get the police, get the police." What the heck is this going on? This is an authority that wants to televise on the internet their meetings. If they start televising them, it'll have better popularity than Coronation Street. It's an absolute farce.
outside of Onchan and the people involved and the people who take an interest, Brian, people will just wonder what on earth is going on in Onchan. As you say, it's a big district. It's a big, and as commissioners, they wield quite a bit of power.
It's a major responsibility, because you're looking after the pennies, the coffers of all the people in the district. And your role as a commissioner is to do your very best with the least, in my opinion. And at the moment, money is being squandered. The rates are spiralling out of control. We're already under financial pressure. And to be spending money arguing with staff members, they've got more staff, senior staff, on stress leave than any other authority that I know of. I mean, it is absolutely appalling. And I know that they're mainly interested in standing for the keys at the next election. One or two have actually expressed that wish. Well, I think they should stand down as commissioners, let alone run for national blimmin' office. I mean, David Quirk has had issues with Onchan Commissioners for the last 15 years. He's already cost the Commission a fortune when he was in the Keys. People have voted him out of the Keys. He's now back in the Commissioners, which he should be supporting wholeheartedly. And from what I saw, I couldn't believe the authority has degraded so far. The conduct at that meeting, the animosity between members. You're all, I'm speaking now to the Commission, you are all there to serve the people that you represent, not your own blooming interest.
Brian, how come you didn't stand last time?
No, I made a promise to my wife at the last election. Now, if you may remember, there were a load of vexatious allegations made against me that I had torpedoed the squash club and all sorts of things, and my association with Goubet. Sadly, and I aim this at you as a member of the press, nobody took the time or trouble to go and inspect the minutes of the meetings or speak to the then clerk to actually ascertain if they had any foundation. And they didn't. They were all vexatious. And my wife said at the end of it, if you don't get in, I will support you. But if you don't get in, you have to promise me you won't stand again. Well, I made that promise to her. She's sadly passed on now, but I'm not going to stand for any elections in the future. But I can't stand by and let this rabble spend the money on stupid infighting and ridiculous schemes that are ill-conceived and ill-thought out, and probably lose a damn fine clerk who's doing his best in the face of adversity. I really feel very strongly that the people of Onchan should get up there and actually visit on a meeting night and see how it's being conducted.
Well, there's the key, as you say. If and obviously they want transparency because they're obviously wanting TV cameras in there because at the moment Ramsey do that and it gets very, very good viewing figures. So presumably Onchan Commissioners are happy for that to happen. But in the meantime, and this comes back to the principle of democracy and the transparency, that public gallery is open, Brian, for anybody to go in and take a look.
Yes, and we're all apathetic about it. And that's possibly due to the fact that there have been many years where the people of Onchan have been served by fine, upstanding commissioners who have worked hard, not only in the boardroom, but behind the scenes and trying to improve the situation and life for all of us. But I don't see any evidence that that's happening at the moment. There's personal interests in there. I mean, this issue that I've got with planners, the ridiculous part of it is if they want to come to the meeting of Onchan, Friends of Onchan Heritage early in September, they will see that the track that I have created, in their opinion, was actually created by the Victorians in 1900 for the construction of the Baldwin Reservoir. There was actually a railway ran along that track. I mean, I feel annoyed that they've caused me personally this aggravation, but I feel more annoyed that every single ratepayer of Onchan is paying significant amounts of money every year because they're acting like fools. I can't even remember the names of all the clerks that we've had on significant salaries over the last 6 years, let alone, the senior members of staff that have been taken through the courts for unfair dismissal and all sorts of stupid things. You can't run a business like that. It's only a local authority that has the ability to call upon or demand money from the people of the district and then squander it away like idiots.
Just going back to, you're talking about the squash club and the whole furore that went around that particular issue. I mean, do you think, because obviously anybody who knows you, Brian, will know that you were associated with Mr. Goubet for a long time.
Yes.
Do you think that association tainted people's view of the situation?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've got, on the commission at the moment, I believe we've got a chap that falls into the same category as Donald Trump. You know, the misinformation and, and with your assistance for regular appearances on the Mannin Line, he can paint all sorts of pictures. But the truth of the matter is, there was political interest. You know, they circulated a document accusing me of trying to gerrymander the situation and close Onchan squash courts for financial gain. How ridiculous. Let me just tell you, because it's now in the public domain, Onchan squash courts were paying the commissioners £1,000 a year rent for the squash courts and the club. Onchan Commissioners, on the other hand, was paying the Performing Rights Society, the water rates, the music licence, all which was multiple times the cost of the rent. The squash club could have tendered, as other people did, but Roy and Pauline Sutton tendered $20,000 a year for the what became the Views restaurant, and the Western School of Dance tendered $7,000 a year to put the dance facilities in the old squash courts. That was a major saving, over £25,000 a year income coming in, and they're paying their own Performing Rights Society music licence and the water rate. Because when you put showers in a building and toilets, water is quite an expensive commodity. So the loss of the squash courts financially benefited the whole of the district of Onchan quite significantly. Now, if the squash players had wanted, they could have rented that, they could have tendered a reasonable amount. As it happened, their tender wasn't acceptable because Onchan Squash Club isn't an entity that you can allocate a lease to. It has to be individuals that look after the security, and they have to have policies with regard to young people. Well, a company without proper directors, etc., can't do that. You have to have individuals responsible at the end of the day. I tried to advise them of that fact, but arrogance took over, and it was driven forward. It went to the Keys, and then David Quirk leaps onto the affray, and he takes up the cudgels on behalf of the former leaseholder to have an inquiry. More money spent that went nowhere. All this is for a man with a political ambition that remains after being elbowed from the authority already. I thank you for all the hard work you did, David, on looking into the gas company. Yes, your ruling that they were making reasonable profits and not doing anything untoward still tastes pretty badly in the mouths of people, particularly in the local authority sheltered housing, that are now paying for that.
Okay. All right, Brian, we appreciate your call, and obviously we have a local democracy reporter, Emma Draper, attends the Onchan meetings, and it might be nice if we get some Onchan commissioners onto Mannin Line. What do you think?
I think it would be a damn fine idea, but I didn't see Emma Draper at the meeting when the three-ring circus and the sparring took place, and I have to say, in support of that individual, I didn't see any threats. He was the other side of the boardroom table talking to the chairman of the meeting. I think it was absolutely bizarre.
Okay, all right, Brian, thanks for calling.
Thanks very much.
Cheers now. It's 23 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio, and obviously Brian made several references to Mr. Quirk, who is a member of Onchan Commissioners. I have to say, whenever David Quirk calls Mannin Line, he does go to some lengths to say he's calling as a private individual. I don't think we've ever heard Mr. Quirk ever mention that he was representing Onchan Commissioners. So let's get that straight. In fact, you can probably tell you himself now. David, hi.
Hi, Randy. Just to respond, and I have to respond there, a massive bit of history. Let's go to the beginning where he's trying to blame me for the Gas Act that came in. Now, I must have been a very astute politician if I could cajole the council ministers who endorsed it, who actually led it through to put the mechanism in, was for return on capital that was done some time ago. So it wasn't just me as David Quirk. Things go through Parliament with scrutiny, and then eventually went to the council ministers and they wanted this to go through, which it did. And subsequently, it was changed in later life when things were resolved. Now, putting it to Monday's meeting, it was in public. And I'll just say, it was Julie Edge, a partner, Mr. Stoll himself, a former John Horton, who else is in, and James Corran. And I'll just warn them, Andy, if they're going to make statements, they need to be fairly accurate. Ray Hamilton can defend himself on the issues to do with the squash club, but all that history is actually in public. There's no doubt about that at all. Ray received an apology. He actually took the commissioners to court, and I think he won about 10 or 12,000 in compensation. But that was when I wasn't there. And what I wanted to do and I'm sorry for the listeners listening to all this, we shouldn't be doing this, but anyway, when COVID happened and there was a vacancy of Mr. Cherry, I'll name him, who was bullied at the commissioners. He wanted to come away from the commissioners because either he's getting pressure or he couldn't hack it or something like that. Of course, it left 6 members, which is not right in a board of 7, because at the time the potential could have been that the chairman was using his casting vote all the time. So I wrote to the commissioners, and I actually wrote to the Minister for DOI and the department, said that this is not right. The vacancies need to be filled. And subsequently after that, they were filled. The other issue was, too, that, do you remember the debacle? It was only for one seat for about nearly 6 months, where there was a mess with the post office, when Julie was the chairman of that thing, the post office there, where the polling cards were put out for Onchan for the election, which said you could vote for 2 for 1 seat.
Yes, I remember.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
All that. So there's quite a bit of history, and I don't want to bore people too much. But anyway, I'm always on the end of the phone. I may not be always right, but I can say that those members on Monday night were honourable to the local authority. They were doing it the right way. There was a member in the public gallery who was obstructive, was just trying to create trouble. And that's why that's why I want public streaming of this particular authority, which was approved. And it will give a sense to those people who do want to come and get involved in stuff like this.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to comment on Onchan Commissioners' performance. That's unethical. I wouldn't ask you to do that. As you say, the public gallery is open. They can see. It's just that from the outside, David, some people may be led to the opinion of what's going on at Onchan. What has been happening?
They're moving forward all the time. They're addressing issues. We can't address everything because we're lumbered with some of the legacy of the DOI not repairing the roads. And I could say to you publicly, we had a meeting with the minister, and I don't mind saying that. It was a private meeting. And now I'm being restricted from actually having the agenda put out into the public domain, never mind the notes that were taken. Now, is that open and transparent to us as authority, to us then as to the ratepayers? And the final thing, and to cap it off, is I approached the planning department this morning, planning enforcement, and of course you hit the thing. Have you had any complaints from David Quirk about Mr. Stoll's premises? Mr. Quirk, you know I can't say anything about that or whatever like that. Well, can you confirm, because the easy thing is to say, can you confirm that have you had a complaint from me by letter or email or any source or form? And the girl said, no. So I'm waiting for an email to come to me to write the question in email form before I get the answer. And as soon as I get the answer, Andy, I'll tell the public it wasn't me. So Mr. Stoll's on the wrong track there.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. No, I appreciate it, David. Thanks for calling today.
Bye-bye.
It's 28 minutes past 12 on Manx Ready. We talked a lot about Onchan Commissioners and what's happening, and, I have extended an invitation to Onchan Commissioners in the past, particularly to the chair, to come on Mannin Line just to talk about Onchan Commissioners, but no agenda, just to say it's a big local authority on the Isle of Man. Onchan District Commissioners has a fairly big budget and is responsible. I mean, Onchan is a big area. Douglas, Onchan and Bratton together have got half of the population of the Isle of Man, so Onchan forms a big part of that. Anyway, we do have representatives that go to the Onchan Commissioners meeting, and we get reports about what happens. And if you've got anything to comment on, by all means do get in touch. I want to head south, by the way, and residents in the south of the Isle of Man say they weren't told about the plans for this wind farm until it was announced in Tynwald last week. You may have heard the Chief Minister talking about this yesterday. There are two plans, one for the south and one for the north. A proposal was brought to Tynwald by the Chair of Manx Utilities, Tim Crookall MHK, which could see a farm built by 2026. Well, actually, the Chief Minister clarified that yesterday, and he said by the end of 2026. So there's another 12 months lumped onto that. A private group's been set up by ARA13 Commissioner Kiri Jenkins for residents in the south of the Isle of Man who have concerns about the potential for 4, perhaps 5 wind turbines at ARA13. Our local democracy reporter, Emma Draper, Industrious Emma, has been speaking to Kiri Jenkins.
The first that any of the residents, local landowners or commissioners heard of the proposal was the announcement by Tim Crookall, Chair of Manx Utilities in Tynwald last week. As a result, a number of concerned residents attended the monthly commissioners meeting last Wednesday evening, along with the two constituency MHKs, Tim Glover and Jason Morehouse.
You said that residents turned up to the public meeting. Were there a few of them there that were concerned about this?
Immediate residents to the proposal who had heard the announcement in Tynwald and seen the press release turned up. The lack of information is the main concern at the moment, because without that information, people can't make informed decisions.
How can residents join the group? Is it through you, or is it available on the Commissioner's website? How can they join it?
It's not a Commissioner's group. It is a private group. So if they search for for Airystane and Skird Windfarm Community Action Group. It is private, so they will have to apply to be let in, but the administrators will let them in. And it's there to be a safe space so that people within that group can discuss matters without worrying what's being reported on. I would encourage any concerned residents living within a 2-mile radius of the proposal. So we're looking at a sweep from the top of Ballacalawi, Colby Village, Ballabeg Village, Friary Park, Ronig, round to Ballacholig and Ballaglonny in Grenaby. For those people who are not on social media, I would encourage residents to make contact with their neighbours. I am fully aware of the polarising nature of wind farms, but the residents and interested parties need evidence-based information so that they can draw their own conclusions on what's right for their neighbourhood. No environmental impact assessments have been conducted. Understanding how this environmentally important habitat with species that have the highest level of international protection was shortlisted as one of the 2 possible sites is our priority. But gaining information as to the transportation, engineering and construction of the infrastructure to support the movement of the turbines and the building of the wind farm, as well as the myriad of health and other implications, is vital for residents' decision making. Mr. Crookall has stated that the Manx Utilities intends to progress to planning within the next few weeks. This sets a very tight time frame for interested parties.
Well, there she was. Kiri Jenkins was talking about what they feel now, and if you want to go onto Facebook and find that particular group, she's an Arbory and Russian Commissioner, and you can contact Kiri Jenkins also via the Arbory and Russian Commissioners website. I think it's arbrus.gov.im is the Commissioners. And I'd wonder, if you live in the south of the Isle of Man, what is your thought on this? Kiri Jenkins, I think she was pitched in for a LegCo nomination earlier on this year. So very interested in community matters. If you want to get in touch and find out more, then by all means do. We got a message in yesterday, by the way. Dewan phoned us yesterday and said he was at, was it Fort Island, and he saw an aeroplane dispensing stuff over the Isle of Man. If you got any videos of this, we'd love to see it. I mean, we often hear about this. The stuff that may be coming out of the back of aeroplanes. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Nobody quite knows what the hard proof is of this, but if you have a video, I'd love to see a video of what this is. The proposed changes to legislation of the 1985 Road Traffic Act will go before Tynwald this autumn. The DOI's Highway Division is pushing it through with the help of local authorities on the Isle of Man. The DOI want to get this new act through a sitting in this autumn in Tynwald without public consultation, says Keith. Those new parking restrictions will make it impossible for thousands of people, without facing the risk of a £60 penalty notice for just parking on a public road overnight and weekends if your vehicle is over 1.87 metres in height or 5.5 metres in length and parked on any public road with a speed limit overnight and all weekend, says Keith. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Dairy, meat, honey, preserves, baked goods, wine and gin. Celebrate the best local produce in Deffa's Manx Produce Marquee at the Southern District Agricultural Show. Visit iomfoodanddrink.com.
Wherever life leads you, let us lend a hand with an HSBC personal loan. Maybe you've got big plans for a special celebration, new car or home renovation, or you want to get your finances in order by consolidating your debts. We offer competitive rates and a quick decision process. You'll be able to access your funds as soon as we approve the loan. Search HSBC Loans and get in touch today.
View full terms and eligibility criteria on the HSBC website. HSBC Bank PLC is licensed by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Every drop is precious. Water. So easy to take it for granted, isn't it? Our reservoirs supply the needs of our island, but with the effects of climate change, that's becoming more challenging every year. Manx water is the only water we have, so we need to make every drop count by using it wisely, at home, in the garden and in general. Visit manxutilities.im to find out how you can begin smarter living, to lower energy bills and reduce your impact on our island environment.
Once again, the Isle of Man Farmers Markets will be at the Southern Agricultural Show, Orisdale. There'll be a wide selection of fresh local produce available direct from the producers. Look for us near the entrance gate.
The 50th anniversary of the Summerland fire is the right moment for this government to offer an apology for the sufferings caused by the wrongs of the past.
The Chief Minister offers a nation's apology, but what did happen on that August night in 1973? Why was Summerland constructed at the cost of millions? How did the island come to rely so heavily on the visitor and their cash? And can the island bring, as is planned, 500,000 visitors a year back to our shores? On Manx Radio next week on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m, 3 programmes, Summerland, its birth, its legacy.
The Summerland story, its aftermath and legacy will continue for years to come.
Each programme available as a podcast afterwards at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon, 23 minutes before 1. In the meantime, I've just got to say hi. I've been checking, and the internet is fantastic for this because with the Mannin Line being a podcast and it gets listened to all around the world, lots of Manx people, the Manx diaspora as they're known, all around the world listen to Mannin Line just to see what's going on. In Onchan particularly today, but lots of people listening around. So I've got to say hi to listeners in the Paris metropolitan region, also in Istanbul. Hi to everybody at the Randstad in the Netherlands, wherever that is, and also Limerick and Galway in Ireland and Bern in Switzerland. So greetings if you're listening to Mannin Line around the world, either now live or on the podcast. Good to be with you. On Monday, by the way, Laurie Hooper's going to be live on the air. The DHSC Minister, Laurie Hooper, Ramsey MHK, will be live on Mannin Line. If you have anything you'd like to put to Laurie Hooper, you can either call the answer phone on 682-631 or email manninline@manxradio.com, or take your chances on Monday to get in on the day to speak to Laurie Hooper, MHK. Oh, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
You're international, Andy. You're international.
I have credentials that go beyond these shores, apparently.
I have been told this. And I thought when Brian Stoll was talking about the rabble and wasting money, I thought he was talking about Comyn. But he was talking about Onchan Commissioners. There you go. What can I say?
Who knew?
I like Brian. I've known Brian for a long time. I think he speaks his mind. He's done a lot of service for Onchan Commissioners. Just going a bit of housekeeping on yesterday. What did we learn yesterday, Andy? Did we learn anything from the Chief Minister yesterday?
Well, apparently, if I read body language at all, he wasn't terribly happy about the history of the Liverpool landing stage.
I haven't looked at the playback yet to see the body mannerisms, but I'll take your word for that. He used to be a rugby player, I believe. I think more dodgeball from the answers I got yesterday. He might be a good dodgeball player. And I'm trying to work out what we actually gain from it. Now, listening on the verbal feedback later on, I think you had it on the 5:30. Did he slip in there a figure of 90 million for the Liverpool landing stage? Did I hear that correctly?
Well, he said it could go higher. I mean, at the moment, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody knows. I don't think anybody quite knows. And I think, let's be honest, they must be absolutely horrified. No politician wants to stand up and tell people something that was budgeted at 35,000 has almost tripled in cost, because you know exactly what these financial times at the moment when things are a bit tight, to say that we're spending £60 million more on something, it's never going to be popular. So he's certainly got the fuzzy end of the stick.
Oh, absolutely, and I mean, I looked at the figures and how they went up drastically after the COVID, but on the same token, they're talking about the extra ordnance that had to be done for the mines and etc. I mean, surely someone must have known Liverpool was one of the most bombed cities in World War II, and there's going to be devices down there that needed sorting out. So I don't know where the expertise came at the start of all this for looking into it all.
Well, no names have been mentioned, and I'm guessing that any civil servant who was involved or may have left in the meantime will have an anonymity clause put into any leaving agreement that was made. I'm surmising by that. But at the moment, as always, we're left with the bill.
Yeah, and there lies a problem again, because there's no responsibility being taken. You've had the Chief Secretary disappear, left. You've had the Megson, and you've had who doesn't even exist as far as the Isle of Man goes now, has disappeared over the hill, and no one is ever accountable. And like you said, we're left holding the can, and our money's disappeared, which takes us back to the wind turbines. Now, I see Kerry's got a group going there now. Now, you know, this has been bandied around for some time. I was a bit concerned yesterday that Alf, when I asked him about geothermal, wasn't his expertise, didn't know anything about it. But I just find it very, very strange that they know everything about wind turbines when the actual other side of it has been quite clearly shown that we're going to have a problem getting the base loads. But they seem to be persistent in doing that, but not very persistent in looking at the other side of things. And I find this quite bizarre. We've got one chance at this. They're blowing the money very, very quickly. Any reserves that we've got, we used to be a happy, smiley face. We've got all these reserves, and we were ahead of the game. And we've got very little now. And if we buy another into something else that's going to cost us a fortune, and we're not going to get the electricity that we require, where are we going to be left? I wasn't very impressed with his knowledge. And going back to what you mentioned there before, Andy, about the planes, you know, I don't like to make assertions, or I don't like to make my own. I like to get people to wake up and look for themselves about what's going on. Walk about and look in the sky when you're going about, Andy, and you'll see for yourself when these things happen. And I just like to ask the question, if you're trying to make me believe that we've got a massive climate change and we've got this and we've got that, then I want to know evidence that you're not messing with stuff in the sky. I want an evidence that you've not changed the way that you're reading temperatures, which they have, by the way. That's a story in itself, which has happened recently, hence why you're getting bigger temperatures. So I just like to look for the truth, and I like to try and get other people to look for the truth, because what we're getting told sometimes is not exactly what's happening.
I think all this is the fact that the financial tide has gone out now. From 2008, things have been tough for finance. Everybody knows that, whether you're in public service or whether you're in private business. Everybody knows that that's what's happened. Now, remember when the hospital went over budget, when the new Nobles was built, that went over budget, over £100 million. And, I mean, it seems that's nothing compared to what we're spending on the landing stage. But times were good then. The money was flowing in. You couldn't stop the money coming into the Isle of Man then. And because times were good, not a lot of fuss was made about the fact, I mean, some fuss was made, but Nobles went over budget. Now, everybody is watching their pennies. Everybody knows, and, you know, some terribly well-heeled people on the Isle of Man, you know, are in straitened times that they'd never have thought of but could have happened before. So it's a sign of the times now. Everybody is, and I mean, if I can just venture one tiny opinion, if we start pointing fingers at each other, we'll end up arguing more than we sort the problem out.
And this is what I've said a few times now about rowing in the same direction. And I think really coming on to what Brian's point is there as well. You know, everyone's fighting against each other and not rowing in the same direction. And going back to government, there's never a time when we need 12 or 13 like-minded people to go into government and sort this mess out and row in the right direction and get this sorted out, work out the problems, work out the people that's causing the problems, and get this island back together. But one person going in there by himself is not going to make any difference whatsoever. You're going to get eaten up by the system. And going back to what Jed said the other week, you've got to get like-minded people. So in a way, we're going to get out of this mess. And I do still firmly believe that they're following agendas from someone or somewhere that don't really have a place on this island and don't fit. And we're never going to get to the truth of it until we sort out what they are. I spent 10 years on a development in America. It was on its knees when we went in there, and as a board and a committee, we turned it round in 10 years. But we did it because we rolled our sleeves up and we'd done hard work, and we made it a place where people wanted to be and people wanted to buy. By not overspending, by doing things that we could afford and rolling our sleeves up to make sure it happened. And, you know, this thing of like borrow big and you know, just pay for it whenever. Dangerous scenario, it really is, and we're in that situation now where we haven't got the pennies to be doing that, like you said, Andy.
Okay, all right, Jude. Good to hear from you. Will you be at the show at the weekend? By the way,
I will be at the show, supporting the Southern Agricultural Show.
And what do you think? What will be the skeet around the show ground this weekend? Do you think?
I don't know. Let's hope the weather's dry to start with. That'll be a first. Okay. Are you down there, or you be doing the Royal, won't you? You doing
we're certainly live at the Royal, yes, for the Friday of the Royal. But I think the Manx Radio Purple Army will be around and about. So if you could gather some opinion from the Southern Agricultural Show, we'd appreciate it.
Are you not going down in that there suit that you had on and tumbled, and a pair of wellies?
Thanks, Ewan.
Take care.
Good to hear from you.
NFU Mutual has supported the Isle of Man's agricultural shows for over 40 years. They're always great social events for the whole community and an excellent opportunity for us to meet you, our customers. So do come along and meet our friendly team at the NFU Mutual tent for a quote regarding your motor, home or business insurance. Look out for NFU Mutual at this year's agricultural show.
Athol Garage in Ballasalla is more than a Nissan authorised repair centre. Their team of highly factory-trained and experienced technicians will service and repair any make and model with dedicated aftercare too. With Athol, you get a competitive fixed-price menu and a courtesy car if needed. Pity this driver didn't know that.
Oh, great! I told you to go to Athol!
Athol, a garage to swear by, not swear at. Book now at athol.im or call the A-Team 820082.
The Le Dan's 24-hour cycle challenge is back, supported by Manx Petroleum. See how many laps around Derby Circuit you can complete to raise funds for the Dan Neen Charitable Fund, helping to support great causes island-wide. Entries open now for teams and individuals. Visit danneen.shop for details and registration. The Le Dan's 24-hour cycle challenge, 5th and 6th of August. Supported by Manx Petroleum. Here for you.
ShopRite. Shopping that's better all round. Shopping that costs less before you even start. Less travel, fuel and time. Because our stores are local to you. Prices? ShopRite has low prices as well as price matching. And Switch and Save is something else. Sainsbury's own brand. Hundreds of items you buy every day. Famous Sainsbury's quality assured, adding up to pounds less at the checkout. ShopRite, proudly locally owned.
FC Isle of Man are back for the 2023-24 season, and they're ready to kick off their new NWCFL Premier Division campaign this weekend on Manx Shores. The Ravens take on Wythenshawe Town at the Bowl on Saturday night, hoping to get their latest campaign off to the best possible start against one of last season's big hitters. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Meppen for FC Isle of Man versus Wythenshawe Town this Saturday, kicking off at 6 p.m. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, got to say hi to Phil in Ballabeg. The website address for Arbory and Russian Commissioners is ARBRUS, arbrus.gov.im. If you want to find out more there, and you'll be able to contact Kiri Jenkins. I think there's an email contact there if you want to get in touch and find out more. I just got a quick note in from Richard, who sent me this and just said, I normally wouldn't email you, but this needs looking into, as the nursing unions are making out they're all starving when I don't think they are. If you want to take a look at the Royal College of Nursing website and the pay scales per grade, I think they know what they're talking about. A caller said that Richard didn't know what he was talking about. So the agenda for Change Pay Scales 2022-23, at rcn.org.uk. This is the Royal College of Nursing, the union whose members were on strike yesterday. And Dick just said there's a basic pay per grade, not including shift allowance, overtime, on-call or anything else. So you can see that most nurses after a few years can earn the best part of £40,000. In England, with a shift allowance or overtime, many get as much as a move, even grade 8 or 9, more than £90,000. Well, if you want to find out more, that website address is rcn.org.uk, the Royal College of Nursing. They were talking last week, there was comment made about how much nurses can earn on the Isle of Man. Bonzo's on now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello, yes. Oh, gosh. I mean, I'd love to sort of talk about all the stuff that we've been talking about previously today. But I can see that we're not exactly great for time, and I thought perhaps maybe a little more on the entertaining side, I think might be appropriate just at the moment.
Okay, go ahead.
Jewin, honestly, I mean, I was beginning to agree with a lot of his stuff, and then he went off onto chemtrails and the World Economic Forum conspiracy and had dreadful renewable power and all that sort of thing. However, chemtrails, I can explain to him what those are. To the northeast of the island, from about, I think sort of parallel with, or a bit south of Mackle Head, going past Point of Ayre, up towards sort of Castle Douglas and the bit of Dumfries and Galway, there is an air-to-air refuelling area for the military, and it's called ARA13. And if you've got an air navigation chat, or indeed if you just go online, and if you just go online to one of the flight tracking sites, it'll give you an option to actually show up the military refueling areas. And that's why there are aeroplanes going round and round and round, and other aeroplanes connected to them, flying in lockstep. Yeah, because they're actually stuck on the end of a hose, taking all loads of fuel into them. And when they break off from the refueling, so they extract the probe from the, because they have a hose and a sort of basket connector which they stick their probe in. All American ones have a probe thing, so with little winglets on it, so a boom that comes down from the aeroplane itself, and it goes into a special connector in the nose. When they break from that, fuel will leak, and so that will be the large puff, and then it will start to disperse. Now, there's only a few gallons, but the thing is that will, look pretty large scale when it happens. So that's what those are.
Is it run-of-the-mill avgas or anything more sinister or refined?
No, that's after. What makes jets go.
Well,
that's all that is.
Well, Bonzo, I personally never knew about that. What is it? ARA13, you say?
Yes, ARA13. It's one of a number of air-to-air refueling areas around the UK that the military use.
Bonzo, everybody is indebted to you.
Yes, but next, just a quick one, so June can get its fill of conspiracy. Congress in the United States later today are having a hearing on UFOs and possible UFO cover-up by the US government. Some fairly leading people, and a particular person whose name eludes me at the moment, but he came forward last month, I think, or the month before, very publicly on the issue, and he and other people are going to be quizzed by this congressional committee about it. So, June, keep watching the skies and stay tuned.
Okay, all right, Bonzo, thank you.
Okay, cheers, bye.
Good to hear from you. And Tony B is with us now. Hi, Tony.
How you doing, Andy?
Good, thanks. Yes, I now know about ARA13.
Yeah, I don't think you'll get a lot of gallons flowing out when they disconnect. There are 2 check valves, one in each end. So when it disconnects, it'll be just a puff of vapour. There won't be gallons.
Okay.
I used to work on aircraft, so I happen to know that. Anyway, I'm not really worried about aircraft refuelling. What I'm worried about is our government is not in control of the departments. Now, I applaud the move that Alf has made in the sense that he's stuck his neck out. I'm not sure if it's going to get chopped off, but at least he's trying. I don't think it's fair of Chris Thomas to start criticising everything and saying I was doing a great job, because he wasn't. That's patently obvious. Otherwise, we would have had Kroger stuff ready, wouldn't we? But apparently it's not important to Chris Thomas, and therefore it's not important for the department. And the departments have got their own agendas. I think the issue should be, that all aside, everybody in each department, we should have a profile of them, and we don't have to have names, we just need to know who is the expert in which area. So, we should have an expert, hopefully, in geothermal energy. We should have an expert, hopefully, in oil field. We should have an expert, hopefully, on marine matters. We don't have to, I can't believe we have any experts based on the number of mistakes we have made in the recent past. And if we have, then I'd like to see their qualifications. I'd like to see how many years they worked in industry. I don't think there's very many experts. And when Alf turns around and says, well, I don't know about that, that's because there's nobody in the department knows about it. And they're not willing to take a chance. The only person who you've had on that said anything about it was, well, we want everybody else to do it first, because obviously they don't know how to do it.
Okay, all right. Tony, time has beaten us, so you can join us tomorrow, because we've got another open line tomorrow on Mannin Line. Thanks to Howie on the phones today.